Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's event. This discussion is part of a slate of virtual events that the Times is producing to help readers understand and navigate the world in which we find ourselves today. I'm Lindsay Crouse, a senior staff editor at the Times, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Olympic track athletes Emma Coburn and Aisha Praught-Leer, where they are socially distanced training partners in Boulder, Colorado. As we've all heard by now, the 2020 Summer Olympics have been postponed by a full year. Athletes around the world have suddenly found themselves in a very strange position. We're going to talk today about what that delay means, and also what lessons we, and you as listeners, can take away from all of this. A quick housekeeping note. You can submit questions at any time during this call using the Q&A feature in Zoom. Please note that this event is audio only, and we're recording it. So welcome, Emma and Aisha. First, since we have people on from all over the world, including fans of yours, of course, and also Olympic fans, but some people might not exactly know the ins and outs of Steeplechase, for example, I'm wondering if you guys could each introduce yourselves.
Hi, this is Emma Coburn speaking, and I am a steeplechaser. I run for New Balance, and I train in Boulder, Colorado with Aisha. I am an Olympic bronze medalist from Rio, and I also participated in the 2012 Olympics, a world champion from 2017, and a world silver medalist in 2019, and an 8-time US champion. The steeplechase, if you haven't seen it, it's easiest to just go to YouTube and YouTube it, but it's 7.5 laps on the track, 3,000 meters, and we hurdle and jump over a water pit during the race as well. So that's me.
It's very intense. Aisha, how about you?
Hi, I'm Aisha Praught-Leer. I train with Emma in Boulder, Colorado. I run for Under Armour. I was a 2016 Rio Olympian. I am the gold medalist from the Commonwealth Games in 2018, and I have a 2019 Pan Am silver medal from my new event, the 1,500 meters. I'm a dual citizen, and I compete for Jamaica internationally.
Well, great. Well, thanks again for joining us. So obviously this has been a really crazy time, and we're all just really eager to hear what the situation is in Boulder. And so I'm really interested in hearing, particularly from you guys as training partners who are obviously dealing with a lot of different derailments right now. Just how are you handling it? In particular, I'm curious how the pandemic has changed your training, but also just kind of like your mental outlook. Emma, how about you start?
Yeah, I really think this pandemic has impacted distance athletes in track, probably the least out of most Olympic sports, because we are able to just have a watch, a pair of shoes, and a road. We can execute a lot of our training without access to great facilities. So really our day-to-day isn't that different in our training. We kind of scaled our training intensity back because we don't know when our next races will be. They keep getting canceled, obviously. So we're kind of in a base training phase, just running mileage and doing a lot of workouts, but nothing super intense right now. And the biggest difference is that we don't get to see each other in training, which I've always had really great female training partners in my career. And that's a huge part of I think the success that I've had in my career is the women that I get to train with. And that's been a bummer for sure, not getting to see Aisha and my other teammates every day.
Yeah, I'm curious what that's like. Aisha, can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. It's been definitely different. So I think we have close to 10 athletes in our training group, and we are used to sort of thriving on camaraderie and shared playlists going into practice and having those moments of fighting together. But now we're sort of spaced out throughout the day, training individually. And it's interesting to feel sort of the pressure of being in a training group solo differently, and that I know I need to execute my workout and have a really good day because someone else is coming behind me, and we're sharing the momentum, training separately, but just passing it on to the next person that's going to show up on, the isolated dirt road and do their best. But it's certainly different, but I think we've done a good job keeping in contact with phone calls and Zoom and text and FaceTime, and just staying accountable in that way.
Does the overall training approach that goes into just kind of like being a distance runner in general, like that self-motivation and that independence that you were just talking about, Aisha, does that offer any stability right now in the rest of your life?
I think definitely. I think athletes, particularly distance athletes, have a really good resilience factor. And I think we can handle adversity quite well because there's a lot of variables into what we do. And, you know, we're not seeing each other now, but our lives are sort of monkish. And we, our entertainment is going out to brunch or going to a meal. So without those things, life looks pretty similar. And we've spent thousands of miles every year of our lives sort of being out there working alone in our own minds towards something greater. So I think we're lucky in that we're pretty well equipped with the skills to deal with being isolated.
Obviously, running is your passion and it's also your job, but it's also one of the only things that we can do right now. Can you guys describe a little bit about what that's been like? Maybe you, Emma?
Yeah, again, we're really lucky that our job is really the only activity that is safe for quarantine and self-isolation times. Again, that we can just have a watch, a pair of shoes, and a road, and we can be safe in that way and not put ourselves at risk or put others at risk. And so, yeah, it's been really cool to see that everyone, I mean, so many people are starting running more, and because there's no equipment required, we are really able to just, you know, it's just yourself is all that's required to get out there. So, yeah, like Aisha said, we're used to that, and it's lucky that that's our profession isn't reliant on facilities. You know, if I was an Olympic swimmer, I think I'd have a much different story to be telling right now, or an Olympian that's in a contact sport that needs, you know, teammates to be training. But it is neat to see this resurgence kind of in running globally, that people are seeing that this is such a pure, great form of exercise.
Absolutely. I'm curious also from sort of just an Olympian's perspective in general, kind of what it's been like to have this decision actually unfold for you. I mean, before the games were canceled, Emma, you and the Athletics Association, you'd issued a statement that said, "We feel it's unfair to ask athletes to continue to live and train in this limbo." And I just want to get a sense of kind of what were the circumstances in the weeks before when we realized we had a crisis brewing, and when the games were actually canceled that led you to want to speak up like that. What were the feelings in that period that we were all kind of facing in our own ways, but what was the general environment among Olympic-bound athletes in that time?
I think there was a globally there was a voice forming that athletes weren't able to train to the best of their ability. And again, as a distance runner living in the United States, living in a state that hasn't put the most strict requirements on, you know, we have a stay-at-home order in Colorado, but we're not like Italians that can't leave their house. So again, my personal training hadn't been severely impacted, but I think globally across all sports, there were voices saying, you know, we can't train, we don't have access to our pools and our gyms, and we don't even know if the world will be safe in August. So I think the week or 10 days leading up to the announcement, when the IOC announced the postponement, there was a wave on social media and behind the scenes as well, of athletes saying that we'd rather postpone and wait till the world is healthy, until we can fully train and be our best safely. And so when the announcement was made, it was made on a Wednesday, and on the Monday prior to the announcement, it was kind of unofficially leaked that that's what the IOC was going to do, was postpone. And so we saw the writing on the wall, and I thought it was the right decision. And my group surveyed track athletes globally, and that was the overwhelming majority, was the voice said, let's postpone. So I wasn't surprised, and I think it was the right decision to be made, especially considering all sports being so affected, and not just running, and not just distance running, but really all sports. It was impossible for people to safely train and to safely, get their Olympic preparations in.
Yeah, it seemed like an extreme version of what a lot of us were experiencing. Aisha, is that how you felt as well?
Yeah, I felt similarly. And I think to Emma's point of athletes not being able to prepare effectively, also from a competitor standpoint, I don't really want to be in a games where there's an asterisk. You want to be able to be in a field that's fair and that everyone is prepared to the best of their ability, and you want to be able to perform in a full stadium. And you want to have an Olympics that's bringing the world together instead of, being held under scrutiny of something that's dangerous and unfair. So I think the decision really provided me with some relief of the possibility of a future games that looks more normal, and one that will be fun and unifying instead of a little contentious and stressful as it sort of felt in the last 10 days with the 24-hour news cycle pumping more stress into the situation, and wondering what you're going to do, what your fate as an athlete for the year is going to be. So I think all around, from every perspective, it was totally the right call.
Yeah, it seems like you want the struggle to be winning the medals, not around whether or not you should be there at all. Now that this has happened, it occurs to me that the way that you're going to pace out the next year as you wait to peak again is a version of something that we're all doing right now to some degree. And I'm just curious, as professional athletes, how are you tackling that? How are you approaching that? How are you pacing out the next year? Aisha, I'll let you answer that.
Sure. Luckily, we have a great coach. Emma's husband, Joe Boxhard, coaches our group, and he has really helped us to reorient our thinking, less toward an outcome or a carrot, such as a competition or something that we're shooting for, and more toward building our basics and being really sound, fit, strong athletes. And I think we are all learning to listen to our body more and step back to sort of our original training that's, tracks and boulder are closed, so we can't get too fancy, but just really leaning into loving the work that we do, and being comfortable in the unknown, that we don't know when we're going to race, but we'll just be prepared for anything, and really leaning on sort of our mileage and our workouts that we know are just sort of filling our cup of skills. So that's kind of where we're headed.
Emma, has anything changed for you?
Aisha and I have the exact same, same coach, same program. And so, we're really just, running mileage. And for example, like today, if I was getting ready for a race that I had in 2 weeks, I would probably go to the track and I'd run 400-meter repeats or something, and they'd be in, close to race pace. So if I was running a 5K, that'd be 72 seconds per 400. Today, I instead did a 7-mile tempo on the treadmill. So that's just an example of like, we're still getting work in training, but we're not focusing on the carrot, as Aisha said, of like a race and getting specifically ready for that. So we're still able to get work. And I think that continues, on the mental side, it continues to motivate us and keep us going. We have plenty of work to do. And even though the Olympics won't be until next summer, and we don't know if there will be any races in 2020, we can still get better every day as athletes and work on skills that, sometimes when we are sharpening up and focusing on a race that we have in a couple of weeks, we have to neglect certain aspects of our training, like the strength side. So we're able to bolster that side, that strength side right now, and kind of fill in some holes in our training that we needed to. And then mentally, I think it's just been a good lesson and reminder of really just focusing on what we can control and I feel like, as cliche as that sounds, and we've seen endless Instagram captions saying, control what we can control, but it is a good lesson of knowing, like, okay, all I can do is control my training and control my attitude and my mindset, and be a good, responsible citizen in the world. But it's a lesson in minimizing our stress and anxiety over a situation that's out of our control. And I know I've found, peace in that I can't do anything about this. So I might as well just keep on going and have a good attitude and just be ready when I need to be. And I know Aisha has that same mindset too. And I think it's been, it's been a good lesson, and we're definitely growing as athletes through this experience.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. Well, actually, first I just want to remind people that you can all submit questions in Zoom anytime through the Q&A feature. But I am sort of curious for both Emma and Aisha. We're all this is also unprecedented. Has anything surprised you about yourself and your reaction to this? I think like we're all kind of learning about the changes in how we behave when no one's watching, when there's no way to perform, when there's no way to really assess how we do. And has anything surprised you about yourself since this has happened? Emma?
I'll go ahead. I would say I'm surprised at how relaxed I am. I have not had sadness or stress or anxiety, and I'm bummed the Olympics won't happen this year, and I'm sad that people in the world are sick, and that the economy and businesses that I really, really, truly care about are struggling. But in terms of my heart, I'm not feeling stress and anxiety over my own situation in this. And I think the amount of calm that I'm feeling is surprising. Again, I have my eyes wide open to the heartaches that people are going through, and I'm doing my best to be able to contribute in ways that I can to make people's lives a little easier during this hard time. But I would have thought that I would have shed a tear about the Olympics being postponed, or that I'd be distraught or unmotivated about that. But I'm really just focusing on that day to day and trying to be better little by little. And I think that's a surprise to me.
I love that. How about you, Aisha?
Yeah, I think I would echo that sentiment. I think maybe 4 years ago, had I have gone through this, I definitely would have freaked out. But I think that the sort of attitude of our team lends itself to handling this. And I just go back to feeling so grateful that I can do my work. I'm a lucky one. We're still being paid, and we are still able to better ourselves. And just leaning into that and feeling the gratitude there has helped me not spiral out of control in any way. So that's been a surprise to me as well.
I'm curious to those points. Are there any silver linings to this that you guys have found, particularly with regard to how you approach being an athlete? Like, has this been a welcome break in any way? Has there been anything else that, you've been able to kind of see a bright side from any of this? Emma?
There's not many bright spots in this moment. And I think a lot of it is because there are huge financial, repercussions of this, and there are, our races and our dreams. And Aisha and I are both in the peak of our physical peak in our career. She's 30 and I'm 29, and that's kind of the sweet spot in female distance running, where you are, in theory, the best, the top of your game. So there's a lot of sad, or I guess disappointing things, and not a ton of bright spots. But I'm enjoying being at home and relaxing. And again, the being inside our four walls of our house hasn't been a stressful experience for me. And I think part of that is because as endurance athletes, we have a lot of experience of just running hard and then resting. So we are used to, that Netflix grind, we can handle that. But yeah, I am enjoying just peace and quiet at home with my husband. That's been nice. And while I wish I could hang out with my friends and my teammates and my family, spending time with him has been really, enjoyable.
Yeah. Aisha, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, for me, one bright spot is I've been able to sort of target some weaknesses that in my body that are just sort of underlying from so many years of mileage and training and racing and stress on my body. So we get a little bit of a gift of time to sort of sharpen up and clean up some mechanical things or anything that's been aching for a few years, which is probably the only bright spot I can find besides just having time to connect. I tend to be pretty introverted and I don't do a good job at reaching out to friends, and having this time, I giggle a little bit because there's no excuse to not pick up the phone. So if someone's calling you, you've got to pick up and you got to be there. And so it's given me time to make connections and deepen those relationships that are really important to me.
I love that. I just have one more question before we head to audience questions, and thanks for all of you that are sending them in. How are you guys supporting each other through this, like both as teammates and as friends and kind of all your fellow athletes right now? I mean, it feels like this is really a moment for people to really, step back and think about what matters. And I'm wondering if you've had a chance to kind of, feel that with all the other people that have had this this disappointment from an athletic perspective happen to them. And I'm also just curious what we can do as people, as fans of your sport, as fellow athletes, to support women's sports right now.
I'll start. This is Aisha.
Oh, sorry, Aisha, yeah.
That's okay. I think because we have all this extra time, it's been really fun that a lot of athletes, women in particular, are opening their lives to us. We sort of joke that people think that you need to be this gruff and tough and sort of isolated person in order to be successful, but you really don't have to be. And I've really enjoyed learning about different athletes through their social media channels. And really, that's what we have as athletes right now. We can't go out and perform on the track, but we can let people into our lives. And it's been really fun for me, at least, taking time to watch Emma doing an Instagram live every night and bringing on different guests and playing games and like all the joy that brings. And I think that's really the way forward to helping women's sport, is just sort of allowing our voices into your homes and interacting with us in that way.
Sure, Anna?
Yeah, I think Aisha saying that, learning about athletes and female athletes in their lives in social media over the last 4 or 5 weeks has been so fun. And I value myself beyond just what results I run. And I know Aisha values herself beyond her results. And so it's always nice when other people value you beyond your results. Mm-hmm. And we still want to be the very best, and that's our plan, and we're training hard to do that. But it is fun this last 4 or 5 weeks to really learn more about athletes outside of their results and outside of their training and performances, and to get to see personalities and to get to see different aspects of athlete lives. So to answer that from a consumer of social media, I've enjoyed that, just watching my peers. But to answer your question of what fans or what people can do to support women in sport right now, I think continue to follow athletes on social media and engage with them and participate with them if they're offering that, and really just open yourself to getting to know them as people, because we are people. I know we have to put on the performer serious face when we're on the track and competing, and because we need that focus, but we are just people. So you can just as a fan, engage with us and support us that way, because it makes us feel better when we can connect with people too.
Yeah, it feels like there's never really been a better time than when races are canceled for athletes to be able to show that they're more than just their medals, and kind of show more of the qualities that got them to that place to begin with. So on behalf of the people following you, thanks for contributing to that conversation. I'm going to turn it over actually to some of these great questions from our audience that you've sent over Zoom chat. So I'm going to start with a question from Matt, who says, I am a track parent with a 9th grader who is devastated that his first high school season was canceled. Do you have any advice to share with parents about how to support kids who love running without pushing them too hard? Emma or Aisha, if you want to take that.
Yeah, this is Emma. I'll take it. Aisha and I both were like late bloomers in our interest in running, and we train with people in our team who loved running as a little kid and participated in it right away. But so I can speak to the side from the kid that didn't really want to get pushed too hard in running. But my parents were just always there, and they always kind of pushed me one step farther than where I was ready to push myself, but only one step. They gave me the tools and their presence to be like, okay, here's track season, this is what we're doing, but didn't really ever put expectations on me. Mm-hmm. So that helped me like stay interested in the sport. But in terms of the season being canceled, I think it's important to try and put things in perspective. And yes, your first track season in high school, that's really disappointing. And I think so much of the seniors in high school or the seniors in college that got their last years taken away. And I think it's just really important to remember that we are all in this together, and that these personal disappointments of, the Olympics getting canceled or getting postponed, or your track season getting canceled, that is a loss, and it's okay to be sad about that loss, but that there are literally 7 billion people that are having loss as well right now, and to try and not be so self focused in that, and that's helped me when I get sad about our running season being canceled or postponed. I just remember that like it's just running, and I have my health, and I have a husband that I love and a family that I love, and I have good things in my life. And so to try and remember the good, and but be there for your kids for when they do want to train and when they do want to keep their interest in running. Long-winded answer, sorry.
No, it's great. How about you, Aisha?
Yeah, I mean, I think she nailed it. And there are ways to make it fun. If you're a parent and your child is struggling and they want to go for a run, hop on the bike and ride next to them. Give them some company. Maybe mark out a course for them to time trial on if they're interested. And also, if they don't feel like running, that's perfectly a fine answer too. Everyone's going to go through this in a different way.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that life is long, and we're losing some time, but there's more ahead. Thank you for that question, Matt. Emily asks, what are some of the financial implications of the delays for you guys, and perhaps for your peers as well? Has it impacted your sponsorships in any way, for example?
I can speak to this. This is Aisha.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of track athletes in particular have incentivized contracts, and you sort of can supplement your income by performing on the track and placing high or running fast or sort of showing up in big moments. And I know that is a hardship that a lot of track athletes are facing. I'm super lucky that I have my sponsor still on board. But another key thing is most contracts are awarded in 4-year cycles. So a lot of athletes are going to be facing the end of their contracts on December 31st. And, we can only hope that the shoe companies that provide most of track and field athletes' incomes can offer, another year to see through the Olympic Games. But, it's difficult because from a sponsor side, we are not really being able to deliver the things that we've been asked to deliver performance-wise. And it's a delicate balance of trying to be able to provide what we signed up to do. So everyone's in the same boat, and there will be some loss, and everyone's dealing with that, so we're not alone.
Emma, do you want to share your perspective?
Yeah, Aisha basically covered all the loss there, and even athletes that have good contracts and all of that. There's an upside that we're losing out on. Olympic medal bonuses or national record bonuses, prize money at races, appearance fees at races. That's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that athletes don't have an opportunity to earn. So Aisha really covered the loss of people might be getting reduced because they're not able to compete, or people might be, their contracts end and they might not get re-signed. But even if athletes are in a solid contract, there are still bonuses to be earned that are no longer on the table. So that can be 30, 40, 50% of an athlete's income in a year, in a big year like the Olympics. So that's a challenge as well. But it's also hard because the shoe companies, they're facing huge losses globally. And so it's, they're having to suffer through this as well. So we can't really expect as athletes to get a handout from them because they're, suffering worse than we are.
Yeah, it's hard to see how this won't lead to some disruptions in the industry, would kind of shake things up. Ryan wants to know, if the competitive season is canceled entirely, do you foresee a rise in performance next year, maybe with such an extended base season to build strength heading into Tokyo?
Yeah, I can take this. This is Aisha.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just jumping in there. I think it could go either way. I think with the extended base, you'll see maybe some better performances. I think on the other hand, we thrive in competition and we learn so much from a single race that you can't replicate in practice. So I think we'll see some pretty rusty performances if we don't have any competitions whatsoever for the rest of the year, but it could lead to greater. And also, we have a good training situation. We have a very competent coach, but there could also be a lot of mistakes made and a lot of injuries sustained when, athletes can't see their body worker, and maybe they're taking their frustrations out in practice and being a little risky with their bodies. So I think we might see a shakeup of who's at the top next year versus who was at the top in 2016.
Yeah, it's fascinating. How about you, Emma?
Aisha and I have a very similar brain, so she covered all the good topics.
Okay, fair enough. So Kristen asks, how are you staying busy outside of training? And are you both reading or watching anything good currently?
Let's see. This is Emma. I am cooking and baking a lot. That has always been like my not stress relief, but that's just always something that I've loved to do, is cook and bake, and especially baking. So been doing that a lot. And then watching, I'm not reading right now. I'm watching all the TV, all of the things on TV. Obviously Tiger King was in there and that was remarkable. And today I watched Rush Hour 2 and Rush Hour 3. And yeah, just been crushing it on movies and TV and baking.
What do you bake?
Anything and everything. I have a sweet tooth, and so I'm not afraid to eat sweets either. So most recently I made pumpkin bread just a couple days ago, and then I made macaroons and Rice Krispie treats. and carrot cake and an ice cream cake. Those are things I made this week. But yeah, it's always going, Lindsay. Lots of stuff.
Very envious of the Coburn Boss Art House. How about you, Aisha?
Emma covers all of my baking needs. The last two things she mentioned were my husband's birthday cakes. She made them too. I cannot bake with sugar, so that's really her forte. I've been cooking a lot. When we are together, Emma and I make quite a formidable culinary team. But actually, New York Times plug, I am such a lover of the New York Times cooking app. So I am just cooking my way through that, and that is bringing me lots of sanity and joy. I am just finishing a book, and I promised to Emma that I will read her favorite book, Sapiens. So that's next.
Sapiens?
On my diet. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's my favorite book.
So you are going to take on an entire nonfiction book during this period. I feel like I can't read more than like a Twitter post.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I am almost completely caught up on every Bravo offering. So I'm not too good for anything.
Very impressive. This leads a little bit to Elizabeth's question, which is, have either of you found yourselves more tired or burnt out, and how are you dealing with that?
This is Emma. I have not been more tired or burnt out. I had a week maybe that my mileage was catching up with me and had a little bit of running fatigue, but I kind of pushed through that and I'm feeling good. And again, I think because our pre-quarantine life was 85% the same as quarantine life, I think we, physically and emotionally our bodies are pretty used to this situation. So I don't think we've had that kind of emotional fatigue or burnout that other people are experiencing.
Interesting. You feel the same way, Aisha?
Yeah, that's definitely true. We're pretty regimented, particularly with our daily schedules. We're almost like babies. We have very defined sleeping and waking and eating times. So none of that's really changed. So we're still, I'm still plugging away with my 9 to 10 hours of sleep every night and feeling pretty good.
I love that. It's definitely better than how some of us in New York are doing, I think. You should move to Colorado. Nora asks, how can we not lose motivation to exercise while stuck at home? Are there any resources that you can share, or what keeps you going when solo workouts have gotten hard?
Well, this is Emma again. I have a ton of exercises on my Instagram. Aisha has posted some great stories as well on her Instagram. There's been a lot of athletes sharing little short workout clips or challenges. And I think that's a really fun way to not only, if you're feeling like you're in a rut, to try something new and different, and also engage with professional athletes and kind of follow what they're doing and see what their routine is like. That's actually, I think, was the first real push for athletes opening themselves up beyond just their performances, was people sharing kind of their at-home workout tips. So social media is full of that right now. So I would say, head over to Instagram and go to some of your favorite athletes, and you'll probably find some interesting videos to try.
Definitely. I would also add that sort of reframing exercise in your mind as me time might help. I've never regretted training or going for a run or doing a lift. You just do feel better after. And I think it might be hard to motivate, but once you start moving and getting your heart rate up and, getting sort of those feel good feelings that come along with exercising, I think you'll feel a little bit better.
Yeah, it's like sometimes the motivation or the good feeling can actually come from doing something that you didn't really want to do in the first place and get motivated by that.
Totally.
We actually have one more question, which is from Colleen, and she asks kind of like a long view question of, do you think this will affect how you think about competing internationally or traveling for work in the future?
This is Emma. I think No, it won't. It won't affect how I what choices I make in terms of traveling to races or whether or not I choose to compete, anything like that. I think I'll just be a little bit more mindful of, wiping my seat and tray table down and hand sanitizing more frequently. And as professional athletes, we are always on guard and we can't get sick because it will really derail our job. And so we are always pretty safe and pretty diligent with when we travel with our, exposure to germs. And so I think we'll just, up that a little bit. But my personal opinion is that I'll continue to travel all over the world to race and compete and look forward to that moment.
I completely agree. I think my favorite part of being an athlete is seeing the world. And I never really want to lose that. I mean, this COVID-19 has been an equalizer. Everyone is handling it. So it's not just this country versus this country versus this country sort of battle. We're all in it together. And I don't want to lose my love for being in other places and seeing new parts of the world. So it won't affect my travel.
Well, thank you so much, Emma and Aisha, and thanks to all of us, to everyone else out there for joining us for today's call. Today's event is part of a series of daily conversations that take place with Times journalists at 4 p.m. Eastern. Next week on Monday at 4, you can hear from the Times' Vice President of Philanthropy, Sharon Chan, and Deputy National Editor, Jialin Yang, as they discuss the Asian American experience during the pandemic. We also have 2 events this upcoming Saturday. You can virtually visit Zambia with Times travel editor Amy Vership at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And then you can actually go running alongside Alexi Pappas at 1 p.m. To see our full slate of digital events and to RSVP, please visit timesevents.nytimes.com. And thank you to our subscribers. You make our work possible. We look forward to speaking with you again.